The Galactic Research Consortium had never encountered anything quite like the creatures from Draken Prime. When the survey team returned with 3 juvenile specimens, the station buzzed with excitement. Dragons, they called them, though the xenobiologists insisted on the taxonomic designation Draconis sapiens. But everyone who saw them, with their iridescent scales and molten gold eyes, knew exactly what they were. Dr. Varix, the station's lead xenobiologist, stood in the observation deck with his 4 arms crossed in satisfaction. Below, in the containment habitat, the 3 dragon cubs prowled restlessly. Each was roughly the size of a Terran wolf, their scales shimmering between deep crimson and volcanic black. They moved with predatory grace, occasionally spreading wings that would someday carry them through Draken Prime's sulphurous skies. Magnificent specimens, Varix announced to his assembled research team. We'll begin behavioral analysis tomorrow. Neural mapping by week's end. The team consisted of the consortium's finest, Varix himself, a Zaltorian with decades of xenobiology experience, Dr. Kashta, a crystalline Lithian whose species had cataloged thousands of worlds, and their newest addition, a human in turn named Alara. Alara pressed her hand against the reinforced glass, watching the cubs with an expression Varix couldn't quite parse. Humans were still relative newcomers to the consortium, their emotional displays often confusing to more established species. They seemed distressed, Alara said quietly. Nonsense, Varix replied. All subjects experience initial adjustment periods. It's standard protocol. But as the station's artificial day cycled dim to night, the dragon cubs' behavior grew more erratic. They huddled together in the habitat's corner, emitting high-pitched, keening sounds that resonated through the bulkheads. The largest of the 3, who would later be identified as PYR, clawed at the containment walls with increasing desperation. By the second day, they had stopped eating entirely. This is unprecedented, Dr. Kashta observed, her crystalline form refracting concern through a spectrum of worried colors. Juvenile dragons are noted for voracious appetites. Their refusal to eat suggests severe psychological distress. Varix cycled through the habitat's environmental controls. Perhaps the temperature is incorrect, or the atmospheric composition. Nothing worked. The cubs grew listless, their scales losing their vibrant sheen. PYRR, the leader, barely raised his head when the feeding mechanisms activated on the 3rd day. Alara made a request that Varix initially dismissed as ridiculous. Let me go in there. Absolutely not, Varix said. You're an intern. Those are potentially dangerous xenofauna. Consortium protocols strictly forbid. They're dying, Alara interrupted, her voice steady but urgent. And I think I know why. She pulled up her datapad, displaying research she'd conducted through the station's archives. I cross-referenced behavioral patterns from Earth's extinct megafauna. Dragons show remarkable similarities to creatures that exhibited strong parental bonding. They're not just distressed. They're grieving. Grieving. Varix's translator struggled with the nuance. They were taken from their mother. Their babies. Alara's eyes held a conviction that made even Varix pause. On Earth, we have orphaned animals that refuse to thrive without maternal presence. Sometimes a surrogate helps. You're suggesting you become a surrogate mother to alien dragons. Dr. Kashta's colors flickered with what might have been amusement or incredulity. I'm suggesting we try something before they die. The silence stretched. Finally, Varix's professional curiosity overrode his skepticism. 10 minutes. Supervised. Any sign of aggression, and you're extracted immediately. Alara nodded and made her way to the habitat entrance. As the airlock cycled open, she moved slowly, deliberately non-threatening. The cubs' heads lifted, golden eyes tracking her movement with weak interest. She settled onto the habitat floor, cross-legged, making herself as small and unthreatening as possible. Hey there, she whispered, extending one hand palm up. It's okay. You're safe. PYRR watched her for a long moment. Then, with movements that seemed to take all his remaining strength, he crawled toward her. His scales, dulled by distress, caught the habitat's light as he approached. When he reached her, he did something that made every researcher in the observation deck freeze. He pressed his angular head against her palm and began to purr. The sound was unlike anything in the consortium's xenobiological database, a deep, resonant thrumming that seemed to vibrate through the air itself. Within seconds, The other two cubs stirred, drawn by their leader's response. They approached Alara with increasing confidence, pressing against her sides. Incredible, Dr. Kashta breathed. Alara slowly shifted, allowing the cubs to arrange themselves around her. Pyrr draped across her lap, while the other two nestled against her sides, their wings folding protectively. Within minutes, all three were asleep, their breathing deep and regular for the first time since their capture. Her body temperature, Varix noted, checking his instruments. It's significantly higher than ours, closer to their mother's probable temperature range. But it was more than temperature. Over the following hours, as Alara remained with the cubs, they began to respond in ways that transcended simple thermoregulation. They followed her movements, sought her touch, and most remarkably, began to eat again when she hand-fed them. This doesn't make sense, Varix muttered, reviewing the data for the 100th time. They're bonding with an alien species. There's no evolutionary precedent. Alara, now spending most of her days in the habitat, smiled as Pyrr climbed onto her shoulders. Maybe that's what makes humans special. We're pack animals, social creatures. We see something small and scared, and we want to protect it. Maybe they sense that. That's not scientific, Varix protested. No, Alara agreed, scratching behind Pyrr's ear ridges as he purred contentedly. But maybe it's something better. By the end of the week, the transformation was complete. The dragon cubs thrived, their scales gleaming with health, their wings growing stronger each day. They played, explored, and constantly sought Alara's presence. Pyrr, especially, rarely left her side, his intelligent eyes watching her with unmistakable devotion. The consortium's council reviewed the case with fascination. Here was evidence of something they'd never documented: cross-species emotional bonding of such depth that it superseded biological programming. The dragons, apex predators of Draken Prime, had accepted a human as their mother figure. When the time came to decide the cubs' future, Alara stood before the council with Pyrr at her side. "Send them back," she said firmly. "To Draken Prime. To their real mother, if she's still alive. They deserve to be with their own kind." Varix, who had grown to respect the human intern's insights, nodded slowly. "And if their mother cannot be found?" Alara looked down at Pyrr, who gazed back with those molten gold eyes, and smiled. "Then I suppose I'm signing up for the strangest motherhood in galactic history." The council approved the return mission. But as the research team prepared for departure to Draken Prime, one thing had become clear to everyone watching. Humanity had demonstrated something the ancient, advanced species of the consortium had forgotten or never possessed. Sometimes, the greatest scientific discovery isn't found in data or analysis. Sometimes, it's found in the simple, profound ability to care for something small and scared, to offer warmth in the cold vastness of space, and to bridge the impossible distance between species with nothing more than compassion. And as Pyrr curled around Alara's feet during the journey home, purring his deep, contented song, the consortium learned that perhaps the newest members of their alliance had more to teach them than they'd ever imagined.